Tiffany Carole here, and this is day 3 of our Survive to Thrive 5-day journey holiday toolkit. And this day in particular, we're going to be looking at an oil and a point, actually 2 oils and 2 points, 2 oils and 2 points today for comforting the inner child and resolving the abandonment wound. So I'll break down what's meant by some of these things. Oh, I just got an alert saying that I'm live on YouTube. Okay, so let's take a moment together to arrive here now, to sort of collect ourselves to ourselves. Feel what that feels like. What does it feel like to receive yourself to yourself right here, right now? It's this little sacred pause. Arriving, welcoming. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome. If you have not watched video 1 of this series, I recommend that you do. Perhaps even, I was going to say perhaps before watching this, but if you're already here, come on the ride with me and then watch the video 1, because I provide context that's really important for all of this, that gives it a lot of juice and meaning. There are 5 primary ways that we get off from true in general in life, but in particular, we're looking at how we tend to get off and how that manifests when we go and spend close time with family members whom we are generally further apart from. We go and spend close time with them, oftentimes during the holidays, which we're in. This one in particular is probably the most common. I could go into a whole reason why, but I'm going to go forward with the solution. There are 2 oils that work supremely well at comforting the inner child and resolving the vibration of the abandonment wound if it's gotten sort of pricked up, activated, if you will. And these 2 oils that we're going to talk about today are coriander seed and sweet orange or wild orange. You can use either one, pick one to do together with me today if you have it. And if you don't have it, maybe you can get it and go through the motions with me here today. And as I describe the oils in relationship to this dynamic, I want you to feel which one would be ideal for you. Again, my hope and desire is that you actually can have at least some of these oils on hand and take them with you when you go to visit your family. Have them as your little toolkit. You can go right to them and experience this firsthand for yourself. I think that it's hard for the mind to really comprehend how profound putting on an oil on a point could be. To the mind, it's like, oh, you're putting an oil on a point. How big of a deal could that be? Especially when we're talking about challenging family dynamics that have been in play for a long time. It's like, how could that really work? Why wouldn't I need 10 or 15 years or 20 years of therapy to change that? Well, while therapy absolutely has its place and it's really important, the shifts that oils on points create are instantaneous and they're transrational, which means you don't have to go into thinking and figuring stuff out for the change to happen, for the gifts to come, for the benefits to come. And that's what I love so much. The other thing is that especially for smart individuals who are psychologically sophisticated, it's really easy to sort of bypass and do all kinds of mental gymnastics around what the dynamic is. And then we can get into these games of like blaming or shaming or avoiding or dominating or all any number of things. But you work with an oil, you work with a point, and then all of a sudden you're relieved of being in that dance that isn't ultimately productive for you. It's not working for you anymore. Okay, so what is meant by the inner child? Of course, there's many different ways to describe this, and I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to be describing this as a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a psychoanalyst. I am a healthcare provider with a really rich background in trauma and trauma work, and I have deep study in the meridian flows, the energy flows of the body, and in Chinese medicine. I also have a background in shamanic practice and shamanic medicine. And so through these lenses, the best way that I could describe the inner child to you is that we have the energies of ourselves at every age within us. And particularly the ages that we had really strong, impactful events, whether we remember them or not. We could call them traumatic events, but strong, impactful events that weren't able to be fully processed or fully resolved at the time that they happened. I've never met a human that doesn't have some of that. Those ages for us, like age 4 for me is a really big age. There was a lot that happened. When we talk about tending to the inner child, it's often our child at the age where this event or these events happened, and there was injury. I put it in. Well, I won't go into that. That'll be a whole other long video. The significance is that oftentimes in these scenarios at these ages when these significant things have happened, there are conclusions that were drawn about life through us at that age that end up coloring and impacting the rest of our life, whether we're conscious of it or not. As we become more conscious of it, it doesn't have to exert a potentially negative unconscious impact on our life. And simply intending to connect with the inner child can be a really powerful experience unto itself, because we're creating opportunity for more integration within our being. I will never forget a little story about this. When I was going through the process of recovery from alcohol addiction, and in the recovery process that I was in, which involved the 12 steps, I was working with a new sponsor who had me work through the 12 steps, which is in essence like a spiritual self-improvement journey. And she had me do some of the steps in a little bit different way than was normal. And she said, because there's a process where you make a list of the people that you have harmed or have done wrong to, or that you feel have done wrong to you. And she said, what I want you to do is not think about it. I just want you to light a candle and say a little prayer, have a meditation, and then see what names come to you on this list. So I'll never forget, I was sitting there. I was in Ojai, California, and I did exactly as she instructed. And then I started writing. I started to write, and the written words that came out was Little Tiffany. And I was like, Little Tiffany? Because, I'm thinking it's going to be other people outside of me. What's this Little Tiffany business? Little Tiffany. And so the second part of the process was to then, with the people's names on the list, tune in and see what wants to be known or written about that relationship. And so when I tuned into Little Tiffany, I heard an audible voice in my head that said, "You never listen to me." And I mean, I was like taken aback. Whoa. I really felt this force of my inner child speaking directly to me. I had never had an experience like that before. I hadn't done therapy work where I connected with the inner child. And I said, I said to her in my mind, I said, "Okay, well, like, what do you want me to know? As if I'm irritated, I don't have time for you." And she communicated to me that that's her. That was basically her beef with me, that I didn't listen to her, and that I always came to her as like I didn't have time for her. And that was the truth of my life. I grew up fast. I was supporting myself at a very young age, living out of the home at a very young age, and my inner child, who might, sorry, I have to itch my nose. Itchy. My inner child, who I basically like didn't have time for her. I needed to take care of myself and get going with things. And so I kind of just shoved her away somewhere. I don't have time to listen to you and deal with your neediness, is how I experienced it. And consequently, I had a lot of challenge in my life around neediness. I didn't know how to identify my own needs or speak up about my own needs. I was at different points actually repulsed by needy people coming into my sphere, which was not a very good thing to have going on when you're in the healing arts. And as soon as I started to connect with her, and then really connect with her, and it was like it was just such a sweet, real thing that was happening, where she kind of showed me what's what, and we started to develop this relationship and speak through writing and listening and writing and listening. I began to shift and change in ways that I can only say formed the stable foundation for who I am now. Had I not connected with the inner child and listened to her, and now I've connected to myself at many different ages, and just the connection, the intention to connect, and the listening. For you, it may show up in different ways. You may not hear a voice in your head, but you may feel a presence. You may feel some emotion. You may see some images. Connecting with these parts of ourselves that didn't get to like say the thing or feel the thing at the time that it was happening, by connecting now with intention, we can allow energy to move, and we can establish greater intimacy with ourselves. And I understand that perhaps to some of you this may sound a little bit strange, and to others it may sound like, oh yeah, of course. My invitation is, no matter if it sounds normal or it sounds strange, is to try right now, when we do this practice, with intention, connecting to your child spirit, and whatever age of you wants to connect with you at this time. Okay? What else do I want to say about that? When we go and visit family for the holidays, if we don't normally live in close proximity with them, whatever the wounding patterns are that we carry at the different ages of ourself, they will tend to get aggravated or rubbed on within the family field and the family dynamic. They tend to get activated. They tend to show up. So it's a brilliant time to do this work. And the abandonment wound, the fastest, most powerful way to resolve the energetic of the abandonment wound is to presence with yourself. And we spoke about that yesterday, the presencing with the self. The abandonment wound can get activated by a dynamic outside of us, but ultimately the dynamic wound, the abandonment wound, stays active because of our own self-abandonment. The abandonment wound stays active because of our own self-abandonment, self to self. Leaving ourselves to please another, leaving ourselves to be accepted by another, etc. Good. So that lays down some basic framework, foundational framework for this. If you enjoy this and you want to know more, please, I think you will love this. It's an offering that I created called Tending the Ancestral Wounds. I will also put that in the show notes. And if you go to my website, which is tiffanycarole.com, and you click on the courses tab, that'll take you to my online school, and I have many, many courses there. And check out Tending the Ancestral Wounds. And right now I actually have that particular course bundled with another, so you get another course that it has a similar support offering for you for free in that. All right. Coriander seed, sweet orange. They're very different in fragrance. They do have a different impact, but both of them are so well received by the inner child. And both of them help, but in different ways, with the abandonment wound. So with sweet orange, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, say the point, then coriander seed, say the point, and then you decide which one you want to do, and we'll do it together and close out. I'm so happy you're here, by the way, listening now, right here. Sweet orange is just the essence of play and spontaneity and innocence. And when we have lost that because we've gotten too serious, because we've alienated our inner child for whatever reason, taking in the fragrance of sweet orange and placing it over the heart, CV17, right on the sternum here, can engender and activate that spontaneity and that playfulness. And the fragrance of sweet orange just speaks directly to the inner child. Yes, okay. I'm going to give a list of kind of like signs and symptoms that you might notice in yourself to know that this is needed, but I'll say that in a moment. So sweet orange, spontaneity and playfulness, speaks directly to the child spirit, placing it over the heart, CV17, if you know that point. That point's actually called, if you translate it from Chinese to English, primordial child. Primordial child. The other oil is coriander seed, not leaf. They're very, very different energies. Coriander seed, and you place coriander seed right over the belly button. You don't have to stick your finger in the belly button. Just put a drop of oil on your finger and then place it right over the belly button. I usually place one hand over and then put the other hand like that, like so. Because you're touching the point that is your original source of nourishment, your connection to your mother. It's a powerful point. And coriander seed sends the vibration, the activation, the transmission of the truth of abundance, the absence of lack. If we can say that, the absence of lack. So whenever you find yourself, if you find yourself when you're at home, like listless or wanting something from your family that you don't feel like you can get, you want to be acknowledged, you want to be seen in a certain way, you want a certain kind of love, you want them to listen to you, whatever it is that you want for them, if you feel like you're not getting it, rather than go into whatever you go into when you're not getting what you want, which sometimes is like a tantrum, simply stop, put the coriander seed on CV8. If you have both of these, do both, great. You could put the coriander seed on CV8 to shift that energy of lack. And you can also or put the sweet orange or wild orange on CV17 over your heart to acknowledge the child spirit and bring that spontaneity and novelty and play in. In this way, when we do aroma point on ourselves, we show up for ourselves. We show up for ourselves. The nature of human relationships is that we can't 100% count on someone to always be there exactly, another person to always be there exactly in the way that we want at exactly the right time. It's an unfair expectation for anyone. But we can choose that for ourselves. We can show up for ourselves. We're not always conscious enough to do it. But when we are, and when there's intentionality there, and we keep showing up for ourselves in these really tender and loving and luscious ways, that is the ultimate form of self-care. And it's so substantial. It's life-changing. When you show up for yourself in this way, you can show up for others in a way that will really fortify the true intimacy between you and others, you and your family members. Part of the distortions in the family field that are common is these sort of refractions and reverberations and mirrorings of the abandonment wound, how it shows up in each person, and each person sort of wanting something from the other person that they're not getting, and then however each person acts out, and then the sort of drama and the way the things unfold in the family just unfolds from that. So this is foundational. I'm so wondering how this is landing for you. If you want to comment, please do. Also, by the way, if you're watching this video on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you do like it. And then you share it. Share it with others. There's a really easy share button. I don't know if it happens while I'm doing live, but you could also do it after. And thank you. Okay, so let's do this. Which oil are you going to pick? I am taking... I'm going to do the coriander seed on CV8 on my belly button. And actually, if you wanted to get a little crazy here and you have both oils, you could do them both at the same time. But I want you to put one down first and then the other down. So you'd have it on two different fingers. Start with one and then the other so you can feel the activation of each one. All right, I'm going with the CV8. If you don't have either of these oils, just be present and go through this practice together with me. I'm going to close my eyes if you want to close your eyes with me. Very light touch and contact. Yes. Maybe you visualize the merging of you of all ages being present and nested with the now you, nested all inside of the future you. Claiming this level of integration within your being simply by this acknowledgement of all of the dimensions of your own self right here, right now. You are so rich. You're so rich in life experience, and all of it's allowed to be there. Even the icky parts, they don't mean that you're broken or wrong. It's just part of the beautiful facets, beautiful intricacy of you. Feel this love from you to you, this pure, compassionate acceptance. Holding that as long as you like, as long as it feels good. I generally recommend somewhere between 1 and 3 minutes. And once you're done, bringing your hands up to take an inhalation. Notice what you notice. Notice what you notice. It helps you to believe more in what's possible here, which is then motivating to continue to do these simple practices. And when you continue to do these simple practices, your life will be changed in ways that really surprise and delight you. For anybody that's listening to me whose life has been changed in ways that surprise and delight you from this, please do share in the comments. Okay. Oh, I mentioned that I would tell you a blend each day, and my blend that I created for this in particular, and I love this blend, is called Nourishment. And you can find Nourishment on Monara, MONARA.org. You can either look under kits and look at the Metamorphosis 5-element kit, because the 5 blends that I'm talking about are in that, or you can just go straight to Nourishment if this is the one that's speaking to you. It has the coriander seed in it. Okay, so much love from my heart to yours. I'll see you tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it. We have 2 more days left.